All right, this story I want to do is not a well-known story in Black history. Who killed Secretary General Dag Hammarskjold? As you see, Dag Hammarskjold, he's with Patrice Lumumba right there, who was killed before him. And there's reasons before this, you know what I'm saying? Not many people know about Patrice Lumumba getting killed. But we don't go into this. In order to go into this story, we got to go to before World War II, the end of World War II. You know what I'm saying? I'm coming out of the book, Modern Times, The World from the 20s to the 90s, by Paul Johnson. This is a Caucasian history book. You know what I'm saying? More than 3.1 million Japanese men at arms came from the cold. The greatest defeat of any Asian or non-white nation ever undergone. In every department, Western, i.e. white, technology and organization had not proved not marginally, but overwhelmingly superior. It was not only the characteristic, but a very archetypical type of colonial-style victory of firepower over muscle power. So when the Japanese surrendered, that was the largest stipulation of a non-white army. That fight of colonialism. From this, the neo-colonialists started up the UN, which still exists today. You know what I'm saying? Up to the mid-50s, however, you know, and Princess capitalism, the second world of totalitarian socialism, with its slave camps, both with the hideous arsenals of weapons of mass, and that come in existence a third world, rising from the phoenix from the ashes of an empire, free, pacific, non-aligned, industrious, purge of capitalist and stylistic vices, radiant with the public view of virtue. Today, saving itself is a search to tomorrow by the world example. This concept was made flesh at the Afro-Asian Conference held 18 through the 24th of April, 1955, called Bandung. Now, this was the concept of Bandung came across at. Some 23 independent states from Asia, 4 from Africa was present, plus the Gold Coast of Sudan, soon to be free. The occasion was the apology of Nero World and a celebrity he chose as a brilliant opportunity to introduce China light to the world. But there were many stars, other stars, including Un Yu of Burma, Nur Khan of Cambodia, Muhammad Ali of Pakistan, Nur Kwame Nkrumah, Africa's first black president to be, and Archbishop of Samrakos of Cyprus, who was the only white guy there. The black congressman, Adam Clayton Powell, and the Grand Mufti of Palestine. So all this stuff came together. By the time the Third World had not yet publicly researched of invasions and massacres. This is the first intercontinental conference of colored people in the world history of mankind. And Cyril says in open orations, sisters and brothers, how terrific and dynamic is our time. Nations and states have awakened. The old age of the white man, which had ravaged the planet with his dying. A better was new and dawning, which would dissolve the Cold War and introduce a multiracial, multi-religious brotherhood for all religion one in their message of tolerance. The colored races would introduce a new morality. We, the people of Asian Africa, far more than half the human population of the world, can mobilize what is called a moral violence of nation in favor of peace. After this striking phase, a Louisian feast of oratory followed. Among those overwhelmed by it was black American writer Richard Wright. This is the human race speaking, he wrote. Now, to get more, I had to do another video on the Bandung conference itself, because that was a great conference. But the video is about Dag Hammarskjold, so let's keep on continuing. The real loser, until up to the early 50s, the United Americans had control of the UN. Their first mistake was involving in Korea, especially in the form of the General Assembly, a pseudo-representative body which spoke only for governments, a growing proportion of which was undemocratic. Korea broke T.I.A. lid, the Norwegian Secretary General, who was loyal to the principles of the old Western White Alliance. He resigned when the Russians boycotted him and got the left to stir up his own secretariat against him. At this point, Western democracies had dropped the UN and concerns instead of expanding into NATO, a worldwide security for free nations. Instead, after much of a bad temper, the powers appointed Swedish diplomat Dag Hammarskjold. A worse choice could not be imagined. He was highly successful in family of public servants. In a nation uneasily aware that had grown immensely prosperous by staying out of 2 world wars. He was guilt personified, and he was determined that the West should, or the whites, should repatriate it. Severe and well-read, humorless, unmarried, although not homosexual, in Harmon's life, wrote his official biographer, sex played little or no part. He was excluded to the sexual religiosity. It was characteristic of him in advance of the 50s, a good taste he faithfully reflected. that he transformed the old UN mediation room into a plain apparatus chamber into a dark and dramatic cavern, which strikingly perspective and lighting, and in the center, a rectangular block of iron ore illuminated by a single shaft of light. What did this symbolize? Relative morality, perhaps? It was her manifestation and intentions to cut the umbilical cord which linked the UN to the old-time Western White Alliance, and align the organization with what we regarded as the newer version of forces of righteousness in the world, the uncommitted nations or the non-enlightened nations of the Bandung Conference. In short, too, he was a member of the Bandung generation, despite, or rather because of his placid face. When Eisenhower turned on the Sudan, broke him, and handed the whole problem to the UN, he gave Hafez exactly the opportunity he'd been waiting for. The Secretary General took the time to oust the French forces in Israeli and place them when the national peace conquered. Now that brought him on the bad side of the United States. The Secretary General set to work to oust the Anglo-French forces in the Israeli and replace them with a multinational UN peacekeeping contingency. He saw a role for himself as a world statement by driving the engine of non-alignment. Hence, through affecting the impartiality, he threw his weight entirely behind the Afro-Asian camp. This means treating Israel not as a small and vulnerable nation, but as an outpost of imperialism. Just on a sidebar tip, if you look at some like Malcolm X's speech, Message to the Grassroots, he talked about how all the people got together in the Bandung conference and stuff like that. And this was Dag Hammarskjold was the ace in the hole for this. You know what I'm saying? Because he was a UN Secretary General and he was on their side. So that's when he said everybody go right to UN and push these votes. And we got 1/3 of the block in the voting block, you know what I'm saying? So we can get this stuff pushing and put the US imperialism on blast. You know what I'm saying? But our oppressors have contingency plans for themselves. And we're going to get into that. You know what I'm saying? About what they did. Because this guy, he didn't make it. So Patrice Lumumba, fast forwarding, Patrice Lumumba is dead. You know what I'm saying? So Dag Hammarskjold is riding in a plane, trying to squash the beef after what happened to Patrice Lumumba, trying to squash it. Let's see what happened. He was headed for the Rhodesia to negotiate a ceasefire with Modibo Tambi, the leader of the Katanga province, in the neighboring Democratic Republic of Congo, where the rebels had separated from their own independence. So he was on the ground trying to stop that. Days after the crash, the Congolese capital buzzes with rumors. In Libreville, where the hotel bars are buzzing with diplomats, reporters, and foreign agents and gun for hire, conversation and eavesdrops reported on. An AP press reporter, claimed they hear that 2 Belgian pilots boasting of their plane being shot down. A UN officer cabled rumor that KGB involvement was in the crash. The American ambassador claimed it was the work of a rogue Belgian mercenary. What happened on the night September 17th, 1961, has propelled conspiracy theories and baffled experts. A half a century later, the UN released a second report on the crash. The panel comprised of a Tanzanian justice, an Australian aviation expert, a Danish ballistic expert, was appointed in March on the decision of the General Assembly. They traveled the crash area now known as Zambia to track down the 12 surviving witnesses. But rather than a conclusive blow to the conspiracy theory, the mystery of Hamma's untimely death prevails. Were there really 2 planes in the sky? Were the aircraft really on fire when they hit the ground? Did Hamma survive only to be shot in the craft? The whole thing is an elaborate multicultural spy conspiracy to kill the main integral part of peace negotiation in a region of the world that was spiraling into the East-West proxy. Almost immediately, rumors of the real cause of the crash began to swirl. Chief among them was the belief that the plane was shot down purposely to either or diverted or shot down, as the man inside was integral to peace negotiation. Soon after Hammarskjöld's death, former President Harry Truman reported that to the press that Hammarskjöld was on point of getting to something done when they killed him. I noticed that when he said they killed him. This when the President Harry Truman said this now. He said they killed him, whoever they was. In the most conspiracy-rife era of our time, when the Cold War was soliciting alliances, perhaps Norway was such a fodder for the German green spy thriller than Central Africa. The country had splintered parts on all sides of stocked down with battalions and mercenaries and overflowing with spies. Early that year, the C.I.A. had secretly assisted in assassinating Patrice Lumumba, the first decorated democratically elected prime minister, and later installed a dictator known as Mobutu Sese Seko in his place. The UN had his work cut out. Hammarskjöld was a man in the guy striving for peace and unity. He probably knows more of the state secrets than any man alive. He hides what he knows behind a cloud of diplomatic double talk. The year of promise on death, he was awarded posthumously the Nobel Peace Prize, and he is still the youngest person in the Secretary General post. But he wasn't universally popular. Hammarskjöld's decision to squash the rebellion in Catania put him on the outs of the European, whose mighty interests of the rich provinces were aligned with the rebel factions. That night is far from what that happened in Indonesia, and strange trails are slipping out. In two different national security outposts, the NSA, employees reported hearing an interception on radio transmission that indicated an outside attack on a United Nations plane. The U.S. Navy Commander Charles Sumter, stationed in NSA facilities in Cyprus, and years after the attack swore that he had either heard a recording or read a radio transcript where the pilot reported shooting down an aircraft that night. According to Southall, this transmission has been collected to the CIA and passed to the NSA. Another NSA listening post in nearby Greece, a U.S. Air Force officer was listening to the radio that night and reported a strange transmission. He believed he was listening to American ground troops on the radio, and at that point, he had heard an accent voice said, "The Americans just shot down a UN plane." He claimed hearing a pilot in the radio say, "I see the transport plane coming low." And he claimed the voice said, "All lights are on and I'm going to make a run at it." Yes, it's a DC repair DC-6 Transair. It is the plane. I hit it. It is flames. It's going down. It's crashing. He was told that a Belgian pilot known as the Lone Ranger used a flying craft used by Catania forces in the provinces of Hammarskjöld, where he was attempting to broker peace. But the record of these translators never existed and have been lost in time or either held in the clutches of the U.S. government. In requesting information of the radio traffic that night, the UN panel told the NSA that after determining such information exists as documents, it would not be released to them because in doing so, it could reasonably be expected to cause exceptional grave damage to national security. That was not taken kindly by the United Nations. Secretary General Ban Ki-moon wrote in an introduction that he will keep the investigation open and has appointed UN legal counsel to urge United Nations members to declassify missing information, because some countries opened up their files and others, including the United States, did not. So that partly shows the United States in the hit. Even with the new investigation and comprehensive review of old findings, bizarre subplots are under the question. Like these mean little if there's closure to fix the tragic file. On the afternoon, investigators discovered badly burned bodies and charred plane remnants. 15 passengers almost instantly died, but one stayed alive for 5 or more days before succumbing to his injury. This man told investigators that he recalled hearing and seeing explosions in the plane before it crashed. In the course of the research, the UN panel interviewed 9 new witnesses in Zambia who claimed another plane was in the sky at the same time as Hammarskjöld, and a number of these witnesses that claimed that the plane was on fire before it dropped into the forest. The witnesses recalling the class from the ground described lightning striking the plane, army jets flying towards the airport, and the plane falling out the sky. Another report on this is that when they found the body of Dag Hammarskjold, he had a gunshot wound to the head. You know what I'm saying? In 1962, the UN Commission investigated the crash could not be evidence supported that the plane had been purposely downed. But the current panel was unable to entirely dismiss the claims of the second plane or the fiery attack before the crash. So this has been a cover for a long time. You know, once that we had the UN, remember, part of the white man's ploy is social justice. You know what I'm saying? You got to understand that. That's a ploy that he want to get and go this way. You know what I'm saying? Democracy and social justice is the tactic of white supremacy. You know, because they're going to still run it the way they feel like they need to run it. You know what I'm saying? In 2005, a military officer who was part of the UN Congo operation had gone to collect Habos Walana and reported that his body had a bullet hole in the front head. But this description is not recorded in the investigation immediately afterwards, nor by autopsy or x-rays. So the powers that be covered it all up. And it's because of the Bandung conference and the non-alignment strategy. You know, we wasn't trying to deal with them. So with the non-alignment strategy, we got a new player in the game. And this player going to be more powerful than the Western capitalists and the Stalinists, the communists, both two white entities. You know what I'm saying? So when the Asians and the blacks got together and the Greeks and formed this Bandung conference, and he was down with it, and he was the ace in the hole to make stuff move, they had to hurry up and get rid of him. Even the president A former president, Harry S. Truman, said, yeah, they killed him. You know what I'm saying? So he knew what the deal was. Anyway, subscribe to this channel. Much love to y'all. And this is what we do for African history.